comedian David Boyle, and I'm quitting alcohol. So it was a bloodbath yesterday in Bitcoin world, and just about every share I fucking own. There was a massive bounce back today, which I knew was going to happen, and I didn't get any money into my accounts last night to fucking buy any, so I missed out on the obvious pump after the dump. Anyway, I got a bunch of fucking messages asking me about Bitcoin and what's going on and fucking whatever. So I'm going to explain the best I can, but I got a Ask Boyle the other day, and it's an Ask Boyle about Bitcoin. So I'm going to read that out and answer the Ask Boyle, and that will get us most of the way there. All right, here it is. It's from Bazza. Dearest Boyle, you've discussed ad nauseum the broken financial system and the need to exit the system, Bitcoin being the answer. That's fine. You have also alluded that the powers that be would likely interfere in most organized change, circular local food markets that might interfere with established mechanisms to extract wealth. While you have mentioned that they would struggle to take the Bitcoin from you, you have also said that the short-term price is irrelevant. Do you not think that the powers that be, if they were motivated, as you say, about change to the system, could, 1, just drive down the price for long enough that it completely loses its shine, 2, outlaw it by taxation or some other means, lock up a few Michael Saylors or Winklevosses, or even just tie them up with the revenue, or they might spark a change, enforce compliance from the exchanges, Coinbase, etc., to provide details of purchases, and you have your list of targets. You openly suggest that they can do whatever they want. Why are both scenarios so unlikely? I have a bit of biddy myself, so it is a genuine question. Well, Bazza, you have come to the right place. Yeah, they're going to do all that. They will. Michael Saylor will eventually be arrested. They drove down the price of Bitcoin. Like, all this is going to happen, but it's irrelevant. What you need to understand is, this is the first thing you need to understand. Bitcoin is the value. You need to stop, you need to get it out of your head that Bitcoin is just some imaginary worthless thing. Bitcoin is the valuable thing. It's not going to be shut down. They can't stop it. It is the value. It is the thing you should be measuring from. Like, it will take a while for people to understand that because you're so used to counting everything from currency, but currency is fake. Like in Weimar, Germany, the currency was being inflated at a crazy rate, and before people realized that it was going to hyperinflate, the price of gold went up to some huge number in the currency, in the mark, and the people didn't realize that currency is just fake and can be printed. So the number in that currency for gold went up quite high. So people sold their gold to get the money. And then within 6 months, Weimar were printing the $1 trillion fucking note, and they had no gold. All you had was pieces of paper. Like, the currency is fake. Now, the thing people get stuck on is they don't understand Bitcoin well enough to understand it is the value. Like, gold is the value. Gold isn't valuable because of its fucking industrial use. If gold was priced at just its industrial use, it'd be like $15 an ounce. Gold is a monetary metal. It's a store of value. It is the money. Bitcoin is the value. Everything should be measured against Bitcoin. taking some arbitrary bits of paper that can be printed at will and pricing Bitcoin in that, it makes no sense. You need to understand that Bitcoin is the value, but that takes a lot of research and reading and figuring out what fucking Bitcoin is. And Bitcoin isn't even a money. Bitcoin is a protocol. It's a decentralized, immutable protocol like the internet, bounded by energy. And to understand that, it takes a little bit of work. So once you understand that, once you understand Bitcoin is the value, now I'll try and explain what happened yesterday. So at this point in time, the corporations, the billionaires, the power elites, the parasitic elites, the extractors of wealth, they fully understand what Bitcoin is. They've spent the last 10 years trying to shut down the network, trying to control it, doing everything they can to put fear in people so they don't buy it because they can't control it. But now they've accepted they can't control it. So their new plan is to buy as much as they possibly can. And that's what they're doing now. They're scaring you, the public, away from it so that they can buy it. I know you can't see that. I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what they're doing. And I'll tell you by what mechanism they're controlling the price. It's the same thing they did to gold. So the main store of value for nations and corporations was the US Treasury bond up until recently. And the biggest competitor to the US Treasury bond was gold, the historic store of value. And so the powers that be needed to be able to manipulate the price of gold to artificially repress it so it would make the US Treasury bond more attractive as a store of value. So what they did is they created paper gold, ETFs, GLD, it's a stock exchange ticker. Now, what paper gold is, you buy GLD on the stock market, which is the ETF. And so you buy $1,000 worth of gold through the ETF and it tracks the price of gold. Now, the idea behind it is you give the $1,000 to the ETF and the ETF goes and buys the gold. But what happens is you give the $1,000 to the ETF, to the stock market. You own $1,000 of paper gold, an IOU for gold, and then the ETF doesn't go buy the gold. So if the ETF doesn't go buy the gold, then the price of gold doesn't go up. And it's much easier for people to buy gold proxies on the stock market than it is to just go and buy physical gold. So people just piled in and bought paper gold on the stock exchange through the ETFs and all that sort of shit, which kept the price of gold artificially low. And the US were able to sell their treasury bonds to countries and all that sort of shit. Well, in, I think it was 2012, China stopped buying treasury bonds and started buying gold. And so did India and so did Russia. So what happens now is if you keep the price of gold artificially low, China, India, and Russia, your biggest competitors, are buying gold at a huge discount. And when these countries buy gold, they don't buy the paper gold. They don't buy the IOU an ounce of gold. They buy the bullion and they get it shipped directly to their fucking vaults. So these big nation states are moving the price of gold up. And eventually, as long as these countries and people continue wanting the bullion, you lose control of the ability to manipulate the price. So gold has been unleashed over the last 2 or 3 years. Now they're doing exactly the same thing with Bitcoin. BlackRock, which is the biggest money manager in the world, in the history of the world, pretty much, they have a Bitcoin ETF, so does Fidelity. I think JP Morgan has one. All the big banks, all these huge corporations, all these hedge funds, all of them have fucking Bitcoin exposure. And BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF, an ETF is just an exchange traded fund. So fucking you can buy copper on the stock exchange through an ETF, and it just mimics the price of copper. You don't actually own the copper, but they give you the price the copper is at the time. It's just fake. It is. It's just fake. So BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF is their most successful ETF in history. And so what they're doing basically, what all these exchanges, crypto exchanges, they're just not buying the Bitcoin. And they're manipulating the price. They're taking it on and off the exchanges, out of wallets, in and out. They're just fucking manipulating the price to keep it down because they're buying it now. Michael Saylor was fucking going bankrupt about 6 weeks ago. His preferred stock, Strive or Strike or whatever the fuck it is, the one that's meant to stay at $100. So the idea behind this preferred stock is it's always stays at $100, and he pays you 11% per year to put it in that, and then he buys Bitcoin with the earnings off it. So it's a little complex. Even I barely understand it, but it's like a savings account. You buy the stock, he gives you 11%. Happy days. Well, that stock that fucking is meant to be $100 went down to about $83. Alarm bells were going off. Everything was fucking happening. He went into a meeting with JP Morgan executives, came out fucking 5 days later with $2.5 billion in cash, and then bought 50,000 Bitcoin over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'm like, where the fuck did he get that money? It's being captured now. MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, that's all part of the financial industrial complex now. They privatize everything because it's easier to control. There is a Bitcoin sovereign wealth fund, but the problem is it's in a private company, and that private company is called MicroStrategy. It's just like there's this amazing rocket company that is a private company, and NASA's falling to shit because it's better for the powers that be to have these assets in a corporate wrapper so the public, the people of the country, don't have any claims to it. You understand what I mean? Now we're playing with the big boys. The big boys are involved now. Everyone had an opportunity to front run the parasites, but now the banking fucking cartels and the financial institutions, now everyone's in on it, and everyone knows what Bitcoin is. Donald Trump's son is getting into Bitcoin mining. David Sachs, the fucking head of science in the Trump administration, is a Bitcoiner. The new head of the Federal Reserve, he is a Bitcoiner. I don't know. What more do you need to know? The people in power figured it out, and now they're buying it all, and they're scaring the public into not buying it. But what happens with Bitcoin, it's much easier than gold to take physical possession of it. You just pull it off the exchange and put it into cold storage, and there's so many Bitcoiners right now when it goes down, Bitcoin will only go down a certain amount because if they continue manipulating the price down, Bitcoiners just buy it and put it in cold storage. That's it. And then it never sees the light of day again. So they can get into some real big fucking trouble if they print too much paper Bitcoin and Bitcoiners just continue ripping it off the fucking exchange. But that's not going to be happening either. What's going to happen is the big players, the big boys, the big dogs, all the cunts that are in the Epstein files, all the cunts that are in the Epstein files that haven't been released, they're all accumulating right now. They're all gathering, and Bitcoin's going to get let off the leash in the not too distant future, and most people won't even understand what's going on, and then it will hit 400,000 a Bitcoin, and people will be like, what? Fake? It's fake. Epstein created it. Oh my God, fucking Jesus Christ. Yeah, Epstein created Bitcoin. That's what happened. By the way, Bitcoin is an open source protocol. It's a protocol. It's just like the protocol that's running in the background that the fucking internet is built on. You can't shut down a protocol. Anyway, what you're really buying is a fraction of the most secure network humanity will ever have. That's really what you're doing. Yeah, Epstein was all about it. So yeah, to answer your question, all that shit's going to happen. They can do whatever they want, but you need to understand the value is Bitcoin. If they manipulate the price down to 10,000, fucking buy as much as you fucking can. Sell your fucking house. Buy all of it, because at some point it gets unleashed and it will be worth insane amounts of the fake money they can just print. The fake money that in the last year, gold's doubled. Do you know what that means? That means your US dollars last year could buy an ounce of gold, and right now, your US dollars can buy half an ounce of gold. And by the end of this year, your US dollars will buy a quarter of an ounce of gold. What they're doing is they're devaluing the US dollar. And when they start devaluing it against Bitcoin, it's going to be worthless. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope you all bought yesterday at the bottom. I honestly think it might go back down to like 58, but it could also be 170 in 2 months' time. Who knows? I hope, honestly, I'm praying it goes back down to 58. If it gets down to 58, I am selling everything. I'm almost thinking about fucking premeditatively selling a bunch of stuff that went up 20-25% today and waiting for maybe it to go down to 58. But that starts to get risky, and then there's tax involved with that. So maybe I'll just wait it out. Anyway, fucking buy some Bitcoin. That'll do for tonight, and I'll see you the fuck later.